If you look at books like Kamil al-Ziyarat by Ibn Quluwayh, you'll find traditions from the holy Imams alayhim salam that instruct us to visit the shrine of Imam al-Hussein at every occasion. Every Thursday night, it's recommended to visit the Imam. And I know people who travel across international borders from one country into another just to be able to visit Imam al-Hussein on a random Thursday night. It's recommended to visit Imam al-Hussein on Fridays. That's another ziyarah. It's recommended to visit him on the 15th of Sha'ban, in Rajab, in the various occasions relating specifically to Imam al-Hussein. It's recommended to visit him on the nights of destiny in the holy month of Ramadan. It's recommended to visit him on the day of Eid. And so the various occasions on which we are encouraged to visit Imam al-Hussein are innumerable. However, one thing to keep in mind is this is not just intended to increase our connection with Karbala and with Imam al-Hussein, although that of course is a very big part of it. It's designed not only to remind us that without Imam al-Hussein, none of these occasions would exist. No one would observe these events had it not been for his sacrifice on the plains of Karbala. And that's yet another reminder that we owe everything to Imam al-Hussein. We owe our faith, we owe our religion, we owe our spirituality, our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Imam al-Hussein. Muhammad Abdu, and I don't want to veer off from my topic, he is a senior Sunni scholar. In fact, he was the dean of the Al-Azhar University in Cairo. He says that had it not been for Hussein ibn Ali, the entirety of the religion of Islam would cease to exist. And he says, I'm saying this not based on some prophecy. I'm saying it based on the normal time trajectory as to how the Khilafah system, which culminated in Banu Umayyah seizing control of this nation, would have completely eviscerated this entire religion had it not been for the correction made by Hussein. We owe everything to him. But the multiplicity of ziyarat isn't just to act as a reminder of that. There is another more subtle point. In every one of those ziyarat, there is a specific message that's being communicated. Every one of them has a distinct flavor. It provides us with food for thought and spiritual nourishment, and every one of them is unique. Now, based on that, what is the difference between Ashura and Arbaeen? The difference in a nutshell is that in Ashura, listen carefully to this. Ashura is an opportunity for lamentation. It's a season of sorrow. It is to cry. It is to feel sad. It is to feel the burning sensation of the flame of Imam al-Hussein in our hearts. And so you need to keep this in mind so that your behavior, your actions, even the programs you attend and participate in, and the lectures that you listen to during the season of Ashura have to all be within this frame. It's about sorrow, it's about grief, it's about sadness, it's about offering condolences to the family of Rasulullah for the tragedy, the like of which does not exist. A tragedy that our Imams have time and again reminded us. مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في السماوات والأراضين. It's a day like no other. لا يوم كيومك يا أبا Abdullah. It's a time to lament and to cry and to express grief. That's what Ashura is about. Al-Arbaeen is different. Ziyaratul Arbaeen is about renewing our pledge of allegiance to Imam al-Hussein and to the Ahlul Bayt. It's about saying, Ya Aba Abdullah, I grieved for you and I cried over you. Now here I am saying, Labbayka ya Hussein. Here I am offering my commitment and my allegiance to you and your mission. In other words, Arbaeen is an extension of Ashura. Arbaeen is the result of Ashura. Arbaeen is the culmination of Ashura, the completion of Ashura. And that is why people during the season of Muharram, even in Iraq, it's customary that people stay in their towns and their villages and their cities and they commemorate the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein. As soon as they finish, they pack up, the majalis are over, now it's time to walk to Hussein. Now it's time to go to Karbala and to tell Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, Labbayka da'i Allah. I am at your beck and call. I'm at your service. Now that I've merged my spirit with yours, now that I've cried for you such that I am connected to you on a deep visceral level, now I am here to serve you. Tell me what you want and I'll do it. So Ashura is about lamentation. Arbaeen is about connection. It's about reaffirming that pledge we have made to Imam al-Hussein. Which is why Arbaeen is so critical. In Ashura, you don't quite feel how the entire world is lamenting Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, because we're confined to the four walls of our centers, right? We're confined to our cities and towns and countries. But in Arbaeen, everybody converges on Karbala. And you begin to see how Ashura has sown the seeds of transformation in this ummah. You begin to see things, how the message of Imam al-Hussein is not only echoing, not only reverberating, but translating into action. You see the generosity, you see the selflessness, you see the bravery, you see the giving, you see how the virtues of Imam al-Hussein are now beginning to take shape, how this tree has started to give its fruits. And that's what makes Ziyaratul Arbaeen such an integral part of Ashura and Muharram. And so in exchange for that, many things begin to happen. Number one, we begin to see the formation of the nation of those awaiting the return of the 12th Imam. I have a Christian friend. He is in fact an academic of the highest caliber. He teaches at university. He's a devout Christian. And he was telling me just last year, he says that I went to Ziyaratul Arbaeen. And you know what the first thing that came to my mind was? Remember, he's a Christian. He said, the first thing that came to my mind was that the Mahdi that the Shia prophesy about, the one that they keep telling us about, who will come and fill the earth with justice and equity and cleanse it from all forms of oppression, this is the beginning of that movement. This is a prototype. It's a miniature example of what the Mahdi is going to do. He said the Shia have been telling us that the Mahdi will come at a time when the entire world will be in harmony. Meaning the Imam will bring harmony. Prior to his emergence, there's nothing but chaos and pandemonium and hate and carnage and violence. But when he comes, his time will be marked with harmony and peace and love. And he says, this is exactly what I felt during Ziyaratul Arbaeen. He says, you the Shia keep telling us that when the Mahdi comes, people have no concern towards money or wealth, that they will look for poor people to give their zakat and they can't find any. They will literally beg people to take their wealth from them. Remind you of something? He says, this is what I found in Ziyaratul Arbaeen, where money has no value anymore, where people are more concerned with giving than with taking. He said, Arbaeen reminds me of the first spark of what the Mahdi will do. That makes Arbaeen so critical, and I'll talk a little bit about this later. But in exchange for the ziyarah, look at what the Imams have promised to give. I want to read you a hadith, and I want to read it verbatim, so I'll go from the text itself. The hadith is narrated by a man called Muawiyah ibn Ammar. He was a good man, a companion of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And it's narrated by Ibn Quluwayh in Kamil al-Ziyarat. Muawiyah says, Ibn Ammar, he says that once I walked in on Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, and I noticed that the Imam was in the state of prostration. Now, I could go on and on about every detail of this hadith and how profound it is. But I need to get to my other points. We don't have a lot of time. The Imam wasn't just reciting this dua in a vacuum. No. He chose the single most spiritual position in our collection of acts of worship, which is sujood, to recite this. He said, I saw the Imam in a state of sujood saying the following. Ya man khassana bil karama. I'll read some portions in Arabic and translate, then I'll only translate. He's addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Oh Allah, you are the one who gave us exclusive honor. Ya man khassana bil karama wa wa'adana ash-shafa'ah. And you promised to give us the right to intercede for others. In other words, the Imam is saying, Oh Allah, you have blessed us with all of these special qualities. Then I have a request to make today. وَوَعَدَنَا الشَّفَاعَةَ وَحَمَّلَنَا أَوْ حَمَلَنَا الرِّسَالَةَ. And you bestowed upon us the message, the divine message of Allah. وَجَعَلَنَا وَرَثَةَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. And you made us the heirs and inheritors of all of the prophets. The Imam is about to say something truly special. وَجَعَلَ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْنَا. Oh Allah, you're the one who swayed the hearts of people towards us. You made people love us, even though many people have never met the Imams, and yet you love them. Have you seen those videos where they tell kids that I'm going to give you this entire box full of candy? All you have to do is stop loving Imam al-Hussein. Have you seen those videos? Where they say, I don't care. And these are kids. These are children. If you threw some candy in the middle of this gathering right now, all the kids would jump and try and get a piece of that. And yet, they're telling them, I'll give you this entire box. All you have to do is say, I don't love Imam al-Hussein anymore. I don't love Imam Ali anymore. And every single one of those kids says, absolutely not. You can keep the candy. I don't care. Where does that love come from? Allah planted it there. جَعَلَ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْنَا. The Imam, having said all of these things as an introduction, then he makes his request. He says, اغفر لي, oh Allah, forgive me. وَلِإِخْوَانِي, and from my brothers. وَزُوَّارِ قَبْرِ أَبِي الْحُسَيْنِ بْنِ عَلِيٍّ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمَا. Forgive the visitors of the grave of my father Hussein. Forgive them, O Allah. This is the dua of Imam al-Sadiq. Then he says, الذين, who are these zuwar? الذين أنفقوا أموالهم, those who spend from their money. وأشخصوا أبدانهم, and they presented their bodies and said, here I am at your beck and call. رغبة في برنا. Why did they do all of this? Out of a desire to be kind to us, to show love toward us. رغبة في برنا ورجاء لما عندك في صلتنا. And in seeking what you have in exchange for connecting with us. وسرورا أدخلوه على نبيك. And for the love that they express, the happiness they put in the heart of your messenger. Meaning Rasulullah is delighted when you visit his grandson Abu Abdullah. وإجابة منهم لأمرنا. They answered our call. وغيظا أدخلوه على عدونا. And for the anger and fury they put in the hearts of our enemies. The enemies of the Ahlul Bayt become furious when we visit. The Imam says, may Allah bless them for making our enemies furious. What else? أرادوا بذلك رضوانك. Oh Allah, they did all of these things to seek your pleasure. فكافهم عنا بالرضوان. Oh Allah, then compensate them with your pleasure and ours as well. Then he says, Allahumma inna a'da'ana aabu alayhim khurujahum. Oh Allah, our enemies have mocked them and ridiculed them for coming out in droves and visiting the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. فَلَمْ يَنْهَهُمْ ذَلِكَ عَنِ النُّهُوضِ وَالشُّخُوصِ إِلَيْنَا. But that did not prevent them from going. They couldn't care less what the enemies, what the naysayers, what those who make fun and ridicule them. They don't care what they think. They did all of that because it's the right thing to do. خِلَافًا عَلَيْهِمْ. They defied all the odds. Every single person who told them not to go, they said, I don't care what you have to say. Then the Imam said, فَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْوُجُوهِ الَّتِي غَيَّرَتْهَا الشَّمْسِ. Oh Allah, bless those faces that have been discolored by the sun. وَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْخُدُودِ الَّتِي تُقَلَّبُ عَلَى قَبْرِ أَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ الْحُسَيْنِ. Oh Allah, bless those cheeks which touch the shrine or the grave of Abi Abdullah. وَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْأَعْيُنِ الَّتِي جَرَتْ دُمُوعُهَا رَحْمَةً لَنَا. Oh Allah, bless those eyes whose tears are shed out of compassion towards us. واحترقت لنا. وارحم تلك القلوب التي جزعت واحترقت لنا. Oh Allah, bless those hearts that became restless and sorrowful and burned for our sake. وارحم تلك الصرخة التي كانت لنا. Allah, oh Allah, bless those screams that emanated from deep within them for our sake. You know those people who cry out loud? Imam al-Sadiq says, may Allah bless that scream. May Allah bless that cry. Allahumma inni istawda'tuka tilka al-anfus. The Imam now begins to pray and say, oh Allah, I have given you those souls so that you could keep them in your protection. وَتِلْكَ الْأَبْدَانِ, as well as those bodies. حَتَّى تَرْوِيهِمْ مِنَ الْحَوْضِ يَوْمَ الْعَطَشِ, until the day you quench their thirst from the eternal pond on the day of thirst, the day of Qiyamah. So Muawiyah ibn Ammar says that the Imam continued to pray like these, all of these grand prayers and wishes and invocations by Imam Sadiq in the state of sujood. As he cried, he said, the Imam, when he finished, I looked at him and I said to him, جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ, may I be ransomed for you? لَوْ أَنَّ هَذَا الَّذِي سَمِعْتُهُ مِنْكَ, had I known all of these things that I just heard from you, I would have thought that Allah will not throw anyone into the fires of hell if they have visited the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. So the Imam said to him, he said, فَمَا يَمْنَعُكَ مِنْ زِيَارَتِهِ. O Ammar, then why don't you go and visit him? يَا مُعَاوِيَةَ لَا تَدَعْ ذَلِكَ. Never stop visiting his shrine. Meaning you should do it continuously. Traditions tell us that it is mandated upon those who are wealthy and can afford it to visit Imam al-Hussein at least twice a year. And those who are poor to visit him at least once a year. I'm poor. The Imam says, visit him. How is it that when you're poor, when you can't afford to buy a new car, you go and buy a new car anyway? You take out a loan. You can't afford these luxury bags, you'll buy them anyway. You'll put it on the credit card. You can't afford to buy this new phone. You don't care. You'll ask your parents. You'll get a loan from them and buy it. But when it comes to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, I can't afford it. The Imam says that even if you cannot afford it, go at least once a year. So the Imam says to Muawiyah ibn Ammar, you should visit him. You should visit him more often. Then he says, فَلَا تَدَعْهُ لِخَوْفٍ. Never avoid going to Imam al-Hussein out of fear. The Imam says fear in the absolute sense, right? It could be fear of poverty, fear of other people, or fear of a tyrant, fear of a pandemic, whatever it is. The Imam says, don't avoid going there because you're afraid. Why? He says that whoever avoids going to ziyarah out of fear, تُصِيبُهُ مِنَ الْحَسْرَةِ, will experience such regret حَتَّى يَتَمَنَّى أَنَّ قَبْرَهُ بِيَدِهِ, such that he will wish he would dig his own grave. It's an expression. Al-Alam al-Majlisi in Bihar al-Anwar says that what this expression means is that you wish you could kill yourself. Perhaps on the day of judgment, perhaps at the moment of our death, we will think back and say, I didn't go because I was afraid. I should have gone because I've missed out on so much. I've missed out on incredible thawab. So the Imam then says to him, he says, أَمَا تُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى اللَّهُ شَخْصَكَ وَسَوَادَكَ فِي مَنْ يَدْعُو لَهُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Don't you wish to be among those group of people that Rasulullah prays for? أَمَا تُحِبُّ أَن تَكُونَ غَدًا مِمَّنْ تُصَافِحُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Don't you wish to be among those who get to embrace and shake hands with angels on the day of judgment? مَلَائِكَةٌ غِلَاظٌ شِدَادٌ. The angels whose job is to come and grab people, push them, shove them, present them for reckoning and questioning. Suddenly they become your friends. Imagine you walk into a police station afraid, suddenly you find out that all of these cops are your friends and they start shaking hands with you. He says, don't you wish to have the hands of angels shaking yours by going to Imam al-Hussein? أَمَا تُحِبُّ أن تكون غدا في من يأتي وليس عليه ذنب. Don't you wish to be among those people who come on the day of judgment, afraid, trembling, fearful? I'm about to be held to account for all of my actions, and then when you go there, it's like having this old loan, and then when you go to the bank to pay it or to sit for an interview or to go through your file or whatever it is, suddenly they say, you know what? We've canceled all of your debts. On the day of judgment, they'll tell you, we've canceled all of your debts. Don't you wish to be among them? أَمَا تُحِبُّ أَن تَكُونَ غَدًا فِي مَنْ يُصَافِحُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Don't you wish to be among those that Rasulullah comes to on the day of judgment and embraces you, shakes your hand? So, this is what the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein gets. However, tonight, I don't want to talk about the reward of the ziyarah and the pilgrimage of Arbaeen. Instead, I want to talk about what it means for us now that we have been left behind. Is there any way we can compensate for that? Is there something we can do to receive at least a part of all of this thawab? Or have we missed out completely? And the answer to that, brothers and sisters, is that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that it is all encompassing. And that means that some of our greatest deeds are things that we can find an alternative to. Yes, the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein is many things. It's not just this reward. It's not just this heavenly thawab. It's not just what you get on the day of judgment or in paradise. The pilgrimage to the shrine of Imam al-Hussein is an entire university of morals and virtues. It teaches you lessons that you can only learn as you walk towards Karbala. It gives you spiritual boosts that you can only find there. However, there are things that we can do in order to compensate, in order to have some form of alternative. What are they? As I said, the ziyarah is special. It's a shortcut to paradise. And in fact, it is one of the signs of a believer. You've all heard this hadith. Imam al-Hasan al-Askari, salawatullahi alayhi, says, and it was Imam al-Hasan al-Askari, in fact, that one can argue set the stage for Ziyaratul Arbaeen to take the shape that it has today. He established this. He wasn't the first, but he crystallized the ziyarah in the way that it is today. Where, you might ask, in this hadith, when the Imam said, Alamatul mu'mini khams, there are 5 signifying signs of a believer. You wish to know whether you're a believer yourself or not, a true believer, look for these signs. If you can check all 5 of them, may Allah bless you. You've reached such a lofty station in your spiritual path. If you can check 1 or 2 of them, you're on the right track. Inshallah, try and fulfill the rest. Ziyaratul Arbaeen is one of them, amazingly. The Imam says, Alamatul mu'mini khams. Number 1, Salatu ihda wa khamseen. It is to pray nawafil, all of the nawafil, which, if counted with the wajibat, they are 51 raka'at on a daily basis. You might say, I'm not able to do that. It takes too long. It's difficult. There are many ways around that. You can shorten them to an absolute minimum. You can make the nawafil extremely brief. They don't have to include the mustahabbat, in which case they only take a few minutes. You say, I can't even do that because I'm at work, I'm in school. Fine. Start with the Wutayra after Salatul Isha. Start with Salat Al-Layl, Al-Tahajjud. Even there, you can cut it down to only Al-Shaf' and Al-Watr. In other words, you can prepare yourself to reaching these stations. You don't have to have all of them. You don't need to check all the boxes. You could take baby steps, and inshallah, one day, in a year's time, 5 years' time, you'll be able to have all of these signs. So number 1, Salat ihda wa khamseen. Number 2, Ziyaratul Arbaeen. Number 3, the Imam says, At-takhattum bil-yameen, to wear your ring in your right ring finger. This is one of the signs of believers. Number 4, Ta'firul jabeen. It is to rub your forehead in the dirt, in the sand, or on the turba, on the earth. This is one of our signs. And finally, number 5, the Imam says, وَالْجَهْرِ بِبِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. When you pray or when you recite the Quran, that you recite the basmalah in a loud voice. Unlike others who for some reason decided to attack the single most important verse in the Quran, as Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, قَاتَلَهُمُ اللَّهِ, may Allah fight them. عَمَدُوا إِلَىٰ أَعْظَمِ آيَةٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. They couldn't find another verse. They went after the most important one, the most recurring one, the one that we recite at the beginning of every chapter of the Quran. They went after that. And so you'll see them, if you watch their videos when they pray in Al-Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca or in Medina or even in their mosques, they always begin the salah like this: Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Whatever happened to the basmalah? Why don't you recite it? Some of them recite it, but they do so in a subtle way. They don't vocalize it. They don't read it out loud. But some of them actually skip the basmalah. Even though in the Quran itself, if you open the Quran tonight, you'll find that the basmalah is part of Surah Al-Hamd. It is verse number 1. It wouldn't be 7 verses without the basmalah. So this became one of the signs of a Shia and a believer in the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Now, since we have been left behind, are there things that we can do? The answer is yes. Listen carefully. After the Battle of Jamal, Amir al-Mu'mineen achieved victory. The enemy was done, it was crushed. And so the believers, the camp of Amir al-Mu'mineen, were extremely happy. One of his soldiers came to the Imam. He said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, ليت أخي معنا ليشهد ما ظفرت به على أعدائك. I have a brother, I wish he were here today so as to celebrate this victory that Allah has granted you. Amir al-Mu'mineen asked him a question. Listen, he said to him, فؤاده أو أهوى قلبه معنا, is his heart with us or not? What does that mean? It means either that he wished he could come, but for whatever reason he wasn't able to make it. He had other commitments, he had an ailing parent, or whatever the case might be. He wished he could be here, but he couldn't make it. The other meaning, more broadly speaking, and this is probably what the Imam means, ahawa qalbihi. Hawa means where he stands, desire. The Imam is saying, is he with us? Meaning, is he one of my followers? Is he one of my supporters? Ahawa qalbihi ma'ana? Is he with us? The man said, Na'am ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Yes, he is. So the Imam responded by saying, لَقَدْ شَهِدَنَا. Then he was with us. The man was shocked. He said, he was with us. We came here, we fought, we were injured, we got wounded. Right? My brother wasn't even here. And you're saying that he was with us? The Imam doubled down on this claim. He said, بَلْ قَدْ شَهِدَ مَعَنَا أَقْوَامٌ في أصلاب الرجال وأرحام النساء سيرعف بهم الزمان ويقوى بهم الإيمان. The Imam said, in fact, there were people with us today who are in their fathers' backs and their mothers' wombs, who will come to be born later on. يرعف بهم الزمان. يرعف means when blood starts to gush from a wound. The Imam says that time will gush them out as it progresses towards the future. And faith will be strengthened by them. Meaning that your conviction and your loyalty and your love for Ali ibn Abi Talib, if it's solid, if it's unshakable, you were there in Jamal as well. I'll give you another example. I'm saying all of this to tell you that if your heart was fluttering and trembling and was broken, that you couldn't be there in Karbala this year for Arbaeen, it means Imam al-Hussein counted you as one of the people who were there. It means that Rasulullah prayed for you just as he prayed for the Zuwar of Abad. Jabar ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, the one who established the ziyarah of Arbaeen. He was the first person to visit Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam after his martyrdom, and it just so happened to coincide with Arbaeen. He came along with his servant. You've all heard the story. His servant's name was Atiyah al-Kufi. Atiyah wasn't just a servant. Atiyah was a scholar. Atiyah was a student of the faith. He was with Jabar because he accompanied him on his journeys. He served him, of course, but he learned from him. He picked up things from him that he'd heard from Rasulullah. When Jabir came to Karbala, again, you know the details of the story. Jabir was blind at that point. He was too old. That's why he wasn't in Karbala, otherwise he would have been there. He came and he told Atiyah, I want you to take me to where the grave of Hussein is. So he said, I grabbed his hand, I took him to the grave of Imam al-Hussein. As soon as I placed his palm on the grave of Hussein, Jabir began weeping out loud. Then he called out the name of Aba Abdullah. He said, Habibi Hussein, Habibi Hussein, Habibi Hussein. Then he said, Habibun la yujibu Habibah. My sweetheart Hussein, the love of my life Hussein. How is it that I call unto you but you don't answer me? Then he answered himself. He said, وَأَنَّا لَكَ أَن تُجِيبَ. How could you respond when they have done to you what they have? And I don't want to mention those words because they're heart-rending. Then Jabir made a statement. And this goes to the point that I was making. Once he finished his ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, he then said, لَقَدْ شَهَدْنَا مَا نَزَلْتُمْ بِهِ. I take Allah as my witness that we were with you and saw everything that you saw. Atiyah, this scholar as I mentioned, this knowledgeable man, he turned to Jabir. He said to him, Ya Jabir, how could you say we were with you, that we witnessed everything that you witnessed? وَلَمْ نَنزِلْ بِوَادٍ وَلَمْ نَعْلُ تَلًّا أَوْ جَبَلًا وَلَمْ نَضْرِبْ بِسَيْفٍ. But we weren't here. We never entered into a valley they entered into. We never climbed a mountain that they climbed. We never fought with our swords. These men have now been killed. They've been slaughtered. Their children have been orphaned. Their women have been widowed. How could you say that we were with you? So Jabir replies by saying, لَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ حَبِيبِي رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Listen carefully. I heard from my beloved messenger of God who said the following, مَنْ أَحَبَّ قَوْمًا حُشِرَ مَعَهُمْ وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ عَمَلَ قَوْمٍ أُشْرِكَ بِهِمْ. Whoever loves a group of people will be raised with that group of people. And whoever loves the actions of a people will be partnered in that action with them. In other words, one of the most beautiful aspects of our faith, of our religion, brothers and sisters, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards us for our intentions. If our intention is truly and genuinely Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, the result of that is فَنَفُوزَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. If you truly actually take time out, sit down tonight on this special night and ask yourself, what would I do if I were there in Karbala in the year 61 after Hijrah on the 10th of Muharram? What would I do? If you are able to reach the conclusion that you would defend Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, then you were there. In fact, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says in a hadith, he says that you will receive the reward of the companions of Imam al-Hussein. Allahu Akbar. That's how generous Allah is. He rewards you for your intention. So, the first point is make sure your heart is aligned with Imam al-Hussein and his zuwar. Make sure that your heart flutters and just wants to fly off to Karbala. That whenever you remember the name of Imam al-Hussein, your heart breaks for him. أنا شهيد العبرة ما ذكرني مؤمن إلا وبكى. That you want to be in Karbala every Thursday night. You will get the same reward. That's point number one. The first step you can take. The second step that you can take is, brothers and sisters, many people who can go to ziyarah are unable to do so because they can't afford to. A couple of years ago, we started this initiative whereby I published my maqtal called A Day Like No Other. And just as the book was published and was available for purchase, I thought to myself, there's no way I can profit off of this book. This book tells the tragic tale of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And so instead someone suggested this to me. May Allah bless him, one of my brothers. He said, why don't you do this? Offer the book for sale. Any proceeds that you make from the sale of this book, let's create a fund. And the fund is designed to help those who wish to go to ziyarah for the first time. They've never been there. That you pay their travel costs. And especially if they're coming from Afghanistan, they're coming from Pakistan, they're coming from neighboring countries, it doesn't cost too much. It costs probably, I don't know, about $100 perhaps. It's a bus fare. That's all it is. It's a little bit of food until they get to the border. Once they get to the border, the hands of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas welcome them. They'll be looked after. They'll be treated like royalty. But until the border, you can pay these minimal costs to help them go. If you can't go for whatever reason, help someone else go. And we have a hadith about this. If you can't go yourself, maybe start with your own family members. I've always said that each family has to have an ambassador in Karbala during Arbaeen. If the entire family can't go, then let the father go and leave the family here. Let the mother go next year. Let one of the elder kids go. Send them with a group. Have someone who prays for you under the dome of Imam al-Hussein. I know it's difficult in these parts of the world where you need dual incomes and you need all kinds of things just to make things work out financially. But if the entire family can't go, and that would be beautiful, but if you can't do it, let someone else go. If you can't send someone from here, then find one of your relatives over there. In Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iran, whatever. And help them do the ziyarah. So that's point number 2. Because in doing so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you their thawab. And you don't want to miss out on that thawab. And they will pray for you. And that prayer is so precious at the time of our death. Point number 2. Point number 3. Brothers and sisters, as I said, Imam al-Hussein cares about those who physically go to his shrine. Absolutely. He prays for them. In one hadith, not only does he pray for them, but he asks his grandfather, Rasulullah, his father Amir al-Mu'mineen, his mother Fatima al-Zahra, and his brother Imam al-Hasan to also pray for them. And he knows them by name. He prays for them specifically. But even more important than physically being in Karbala is to spiritually be in Karbala. How you do that depends on how creative you can get. But one thing I wish to suggest to all of you, especially the youth, is you need hayat. You need groups of people getting together and holding programs in Muharram, in Safar, right? Yes, we have this blessed Husayniyah. May Allah bless all of the volunteers, all of the donors, all of the people who helped bring about this sacred institution, which is a beacon of guidance for this community and has been so for decades. But don't rely on the Husayniyah to hold programs for you alone. You should hold programs yourselves. Why can't every group of 7, 8, 9, 10 people, young men, young sisters, to get together and say, Hay'ata Abul Fazl Abbas, Hay'ata Hazrat Aliya Akbar, Hay'ata Hazrat Ruqayyah. Create some group with a specific name, make sure it's connected to Imam al-Hussein, and hold programs, if not throughout the year, then especially in Muharram and Safar. And you can get creative with that. Something I've been talking about recently is you could do reenactments. You could do theatrical stage plays. You could, and these are things that we've been doing for a long, long time. But what I've been saying, especially since last Muharram when I was in London, is that it's important that we create professional groups of actors who bring the story of Imam al-Hussein to life on a stage. There's almost nothing more powerful in communicating that message, especially to the children and also to the non-Muslims. If you give them a book, that's one thing, that's wonderful. But if you say, come to a play where we want to show you how Imam al-Hussein lost his 6-month-old infant, can you imagine the impact? And so we need hayat, brothers and sisters. We need like-minded, faithful believers to come together and form these groups and serve Imam al-Hussein in some capacity. If you do that, it means that you're spiritually with Imam al-Hussein, which means that Imam al-Hussein counts you as one of his visitors and servants. Number 4, this is important, listen carefully. Oftentimes, when we wish to offer a service and we want to do something, an initiative that serves Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we start to think big, right? And that's not a bad thing. But we start to think about how I can reach out to the non-Muslims. Again, wonderful, beautiful, we should do more of that. Or how we can perhaps build a new center. Or how we could hold the biggest procession. All of which are wonderful, don't get me wrong. But you know what's better than all of that? You know what's more important? It is to start from the narrowest circles around you. Instead of thinking big, think local. Think about the person closest to you. Who's the person closest to you? Your father, your mother, your brother, your friend? No, it's you. Think about yourself. In other words, do something that serves and pleases Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and start there so that you then get tawfiq to serve Imam al-Hussein on a bigger scale. I'll give you one example. A person comes to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. I want to read you the hadith. He comes to him, to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, inna li zawjatan, I have a wife. إذا دخلت تلقتني. Whenever I come home, she comes and greets me at the door. It's a tradition that's long been extinct. Who does this anymore? A wife who greets her husband at the door. It's so 1950s, isn't it? That's why they now talk about these trad wives trends, right? The idea that we could go back to the 1950s. Western people, non-Muslims, they're talking about this. Look at what Rasulullah says. Look at what this man says. He says that this wife of mine greets me at the door whenever I come. وَإِذَا خَرَجْتُ شَيَّعَتْنِي. And every time I'm about to head out, she walks me to the door. She doesn't say, get some milk on your way back. No, she actually walks me to the door. وَإِذَا رَأَتْنِي مَهْمُومًا. And whenever she sees me sad or in distress or upset for whatever reason, she comes to me and says to me, مَا يَهُمُّكَ. What's wrong? Honey, sweetie, what's happening? Why are you upset? إِن كُنْتَ تَهْتَمُّ لِرِزْقِكَ فَقَدْ تَكَفَّلَ بِهِ غَيْرُكَ. If your sadness stems from your financial troubles, from your concern over your living, right? If it has to do with money, then you should know that someone else has promised to look after that area. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised to send you your rizq. You have to work, you have to put in the effort, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Razzaq. So don't worry too much. وَإِن كَانَ هَمُّكَ بِأَمْرِ وَإِن كُنْتَ تَهْتَمُّ بِأَمْرِ آخِرَتِكَ. And if your sadness stems from your concern over the afterlife, زَادَكَ اللَّهُ هَمًّا. Then may Allah increase your sadness. In other words, that's the kind of distress and sadness that you need. Because you need to be worried about the afterlife. You need to worry about the akhirah. زادك الله همّا. فقال رسول الله. Listen to what the Prophet said. بشرها. This man, he told him to go and tell his wife to give her glad tidings. بشرها بالجنة. Tell her that she will end up in paradise. For these simple acts. She greets me at the door. She bids me farewell. She speaks these words. She tries to take away from my anxiety and my distress. That's it. بشرها بالجنة وقل لها, and tell her, there's more. إنك عاملة من عمال الله. You are one of the agents of Allah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ولك في كل يوم أجر 70 شهيدا. And for every day that you treat your husband kindly the way you have, you receive the reward of 70 martyrs. 70 per day. Do the math. Sometimes the sisters, may Allah bless them, again, trying to do something big, trying to serve Imam al-Hussein on a grand scale, they think of doing this and doing that and these big initiatives, right? But in doing so, they might falter and compromise on their own families, on their children, on their husbands, right? And this happens quite often. I've seen sisters who have lofty ambitions, but they end up compromising on the most basic necessities and duties that they have. Rasulullah is saying, listen, look after your husband and you'll get the reward of 70 martyrs. That's not something you can do. You can't be a martyr easily, but you can get all this tawab by doing this. In other words, the point I'm making is that when it comes to serving Imam al-Hussein and instilling the values of service, khidmah towards Abu Abdullah, begin with the most immediate things around you. Don't think too big and end up stretching yourself too thin. Listen to this next hadith. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, خَيْرُ نِسَائِكُمْ, the best of women among you is who? التي إن غضبت أو أغضبت, is the one who when she gets angry or when she angers her husband. Meaning the cause of the anger is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether it was your fault, his fault, because we can get into that until kingdom come. Right? You started it, I started it, all these things. Rasulullah says, you know what? Let me cut this short. إن غضبت أو أغضبت, whether she became angry at something he did, justifiably, or she did something wrong and she angered him, regardless of the reason, when that happens, قالت لزوجها, she says to her husband, يدي في يدك, give me your hand. She grabs his hand and says, look, my hand is in your hand. I'm not letting you go. يدي في يدك لا أكتحل بغمض, I will not put any mascara on. This is an expression which means that I won't find joy, I won't be happy until حتى ترضى عني, until you're pleased with me, until you're happy with me. Imam Sadiq says that is the best of your women. Yes, I can also quote a hadith about men and the importance of treating their wives properly and whatnot. But I just wanted to give you a taste of this concept, this idea, that you don't have to think too big. Start with yourself. Start with the immediate people around you. Start with the narrowest of circles around you. Finally, my fifth point is that you wish to be counted among the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein. You wish not to be left behind. What you are supposed to do is to connect to the Imam of the time. Just as the Imam of the time doesn't have a physical location that we get to visit, how do we connect with him? What are we supposed to do? By the way, part of Ziyaratul Arbaeen is to connect with the Imam of the time. That is why in the text that you just recited in Ziyaratul Arbaeen, in that text, towards the end, in the conclusion of it, we say, Nusrati lakum mu'adda. In the beginning of the ziyarah, you address Imam al-Hussein in the singular form, Assalamu alayka. But towards the end, you speak in the plural, meaning you're not addressing Imam al-Hussein alone, you're addressing Imam al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah. You say, Nusrati lakum mu'addah. My support is ready for you. I am ready for you. In fact, Ziyaratul Arbaeen, in my humble view, is one of those things that you can be sure can bring about and hasten the reappearance of the 12th Imam. There aren't too many things that you know will please Imam al-Zaman and bring his reappearance closer. But Ziyaratul Arbaeen is one of them. Why do I say that? We don't have a specific hadith about this. But I base this off of another hadith of our 12th Imam. In his letter to Shaykh al-Mufid, Al-Imam al-Hujjat al-Muntazar Arwahuna lahu al-Fida says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَشْيَاعَنَا وَفَّقَهُمُ اللَّهُ عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ على اجتماع من القلوب بالوفاء على العهد الذي عليهم لتعجلت لهم السعادة بلقائنا وما تأخر عنهم اليمن برؤيتنا. Our Imam says that if our followers, may Allah grant them success in obeying Him, if their hearts were united in fulfilling the pledge they hold towards us, then the happiness and the blessing of meeting us would not be delayed from them, and they would be able to meet us sooner rather than later. What else can you think of? What else that brings the hearts of the believers from across the globe, unites those hearts in fulfilling the pledge we have towards Abdullah al-Hussein, towards the Imam of the time? What else can you think of that is better and grander than Ziyaratul Arbaeen? I have no doubt that it brings the reappearance closer. That's why it's important for you to go. That's why it's important for all of us to go, because it helps bring about that time and that day closer, inshaAllah. And I have no doubt that Imam al-Zaman also participates in that ziyarah. I have no doubt. Some people have said that those who are able to see the Imam, but again, even without these testimonies, even without reports from scholars that Imam al-Zaman was in Ziyaratul Arbaeen, or in Rakdat al-Tuwairij, or in Ziyarat al-Hussein on the day of Ashura, we know that to be true. We know that because Imam al-Zaman himself says, وَلَئِنْ أَخَّرَتْنِي الدُّهُورُ وَعَاقَنِي عَنْ نَصْرِكَ الْمَقْدُورُ. Oh Father, Ya Aba Abdullah, if destiny decided that I couldn't be there with you on the day of Ashura to defend you, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ لِمَنْ قَاتَلَكَ مُقَاتِلًا, I couldn't be there to defend you, فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ عَلَيْكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. Then I will mourn you every morning and every evening, and I will shed tears of blood from my eyes instead of tears. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. I do apologize. I took so much of your time. So many of you came here today. on this day of Arbaeen. But I want to take you, as we speak about what to do when you're left behind, I want to give you an example and then recite the musibah. The example is of a man called Abdullah ibn Afif al-Azdi. Some people consider him to be among the martyrs of Karbala, even though he was nowhere to be seen in Karbala. He wasn't there. He died after Karbala. And the way he died reminds us that if your love towards Imam al-Hussein is genuine, if your desire to serve him is true and real, that Imam al-Hussein will bring Karbala to your doorstep. You don't even have to work too hard. This man was in Masjid al-Kufa. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad wanted to announce the killing of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein to everyone. He summoned the people of Kufa, 20,000, 30,000, up to 100,000 attended that event. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad got up. He said certain things which I'm too ashamed of Imam al-Zaman. I can't even translate even a word of what he said. So I'll move on. But he got up and he said, Alhamdulillah alladhi nasara amir al-mu'mineen. Praise be to Allah for granting victory to the commander of the faithful, meaning Yazid. وَفَضَحَ كَذَا ibn كَذَا, and humiliated such and such, the son of such and such. I won't say what he said. Humiliated them and killed them all, meaning Imam al-Hussein and his companions. History tells us that he hadn't even finished saying this. Imagine the mosque is filled to the brim. Tens of thousands of people, companions of Rasulullah, companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, reciters of the Quran, all kinds of people. Not a single one of them spoke out because they knew the savagery of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. They knew that this man would slaughter someone in public simply for looking at him the wrong way. And so nobody uttered a word. But he wasn't even done yet when this old blind man, Abdullah ibn Afif al-Azdi, got up and he said to him, La'anak Allah ya adu Allah. May Allah curse you, O enemy of Allah. Al-Kadhab ibn al-Kadhab anta wa abuk wa man wallaka wa abuh. You are the liar, the son of the liar, and so is the one who appointed you here. O son of the wretched woman, everyone knows who your mother was. No one knows who your father is. You dare to stand on this pulpit and insult the family of Rasulullah? How dare you do that? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was a tyrant of the worst caliber. Imagine insulting him like this in public. When he heard that, he said, Man al-Qa'il? Who said that? Abdullah ibn Afif said, Ana al-Qa'il, I'm the one who said it. In other words, don't go out looking for me killing other people. His tribe, who were from Al-Azd, they wanted to defend him, to protect him. So historians say that 700 men got up. They took Abdullah ibn Afif and they escorted him out of the masjid and sent him to his home. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad sent troops to the house of Abdullah ibn Afif al-Azdi. They went there. He was blind, as I said. All he had was his young daughter named Safiya. He told her, Sweetie, they're going to come and get me. I'm going to grab my sword. And because I can't see, I want you to tell me when they attack me, the direction, how many people. I want you to give me directions so I could fight them off. So when they came in, his daughter would give him directions. But at the end of the day, he was outnumbered. So they took him and they apprehended him and took him back to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. When Ubaydullah saw him, he said to him, I'm going to kill you. لَأُجَرِّعَنَّكَ الْمَوْتِ غُصَّةً غُصَّةً. I'm going to kill you in the most agonizing and painful way for doing what you did and saying what you said. Abdullah ibn Afif smiled. He said to him, Subhanallah. You know how I lost my two eyes? I lost my right eye defending Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battle of Jamal. And I lost my left eye in the battle of Siffin. And after becoming blind, I used to always pray to Allah to grant me martyrdom and shahada. But when I lost my eyes, I also lost hope. How could I ever fight again? How will I become a shaheed? And now Allah has reminded me that prayers really they really are answered. Wishes do come true. I am getting my shahada. But you know what? I also made another prayer throughout my life, which was my death coming at the hand of the most accursed of God's creatures. عَلَى يَدِ أَلْعَنِ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ. I always said, oh Allah, if someone's going to kill me, make him the worst of the worst. وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي رَزَقَنِ الشَّهَادَةِ. Praise be to Allah for bringing my death at your hand. And so he was martyred on that day because he defended Abdullah. And even though this happened after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein, but he is counted among the companions of Abdullah. Now, his daughter Safiya, historians say that when her father was outnumbered and they took him, she kept saying, Ya laytani kuntu rajulan fa'uqatila dunak. Father, I wish I was a man. I wish I could fight. Imagine a daughter seeing her father being ambushed from every direction. A daughter saying her father being apprehended, arrested, taken away, knowing that he won't return. But I say, O Safiya, daughter of Abdullah ibn Afif al-Azdi, you only got to see one portion of this. You only got to see your father being arrested and taken away. You never saw him getting slaughtered. لكن لهفي على بنت الحسين عليه السلام. Sakina comes out looking for her aunt Zainab. She doesn't see her. She begins to walk through the battlefield until she sees her shadow from a distance. She gets closer, she sees Lady Zainab speaking, but she doesn't know who she's speaking to. She looks in front of Zainab, she sees only a pile of swords and spears and arrows. She says, Amma man tukallimin, my aunt, who are you speaking to? She said to her, Sukayna hadha abuki al-Husayn. This is your father under the rubble. Imagine the daughter Sakina. She begins to remove and lift the blades to get to her father. When she reaches him, she tries to embrace him. When you hug someone, you wrap your arms around their neck. But Abdullah had no neck to wrap her hand around. Instead, she simply bowed down and she began kissing the jugular vein of Abdullah. Rahim Allah man nada wa Husayna wa Ghariba wa Sayyida.